Hey BCOM. Well, it's a quick video to talk about the role of theory in business communication. It's actually a topic that I really like. One of the things I loved when I was a senior in college is I had a professor who said, let's look at the types of questions that people ask when they get to grad school. And for me, those types of questions where you're not just thinking, here's the information or here's an application, but more, how does this work and what does this mean about the world was so exciting for me. So this theory project, of course, is not a grad school project, but it is something where I'm going to have you start to look at a few grad school concepts, or at least how we start to ask questions at that upper level. This is also related to the content for your group presentation assignment, which we'll have more on in future weeks. So first off, let's talk about what is theory. The definition that we're going to use in this class is that theory is a set of systematic hunches about the way things work. And this crosses fields. So I think you could take that and use it for math. I know you could use it for literature and of course business communication as well. Theories always involve an element of speculation. So in social sciences, theories can't really be proven. And theories isn't just one thought or isolated idea. A developed theory is going to offer some sort of explanation. It gives a sense of scope. So an informed hunches, it's not enough to just think about an idea, you have to inform it with information. You need to do your research, read articles, make observations, interview people, run experiments. In other words, you can't just say, my theory on this topic is whatever it is. That's not going to cut it in academia. So you start with this idea of a set of hunches, and let's use this example. Your significant other is always angry around 6:30 p.m. It seems kind of irrational and silly. It always stops after about 30 minutes, but you notice it happens most weeknights. So let's develop a theory about why this might be happening. Is it traffic? Is it hunger? Is this person tired? Is this person just a really angry person maybe you should break up with? Those are all things that maybe you'd start to develop hunches on. But then you have to inform it and think about different explanations for why this thing is happening. Maybe you know this person is in traffic, and so you can look on your Google Maps app and see how bad traffic is each day. Maybe you notice or inform your hunch by noticing that after 30 minutes they get a snack and they are okay again. Or maybe you find out for me personally, I had to stop listening to NPR when I drove because it would make me so tense. So then you have this informed hunch and you start to think about it more systematically. So scholars reserve the term theory for an integrated system of concepts. A theory is not just having multiple ideas, but it's going to specify the relationship between them and connect the dots to show a pattern. One quote I love about this from Fred Casimir is, quote, theories tend to result when creators have prepared themselves to discover something in their environment which triggers the process of theory construction. Theories explain the how and the why, and for me those are the most interesting questions about this. This is from a journal article. I know it'll be a little hard to see if you're watching this on your phone, but the idea that we have different types of theory as well. So a common sense theory might be, don't date somebody you work with, it ends up badly. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, so kind of cliche there. Or the more incompetent you are, the higher you get promoted, if you've heard that one. So those are kind of common sense. Sometimes they're maybe true, but they're a little vague. A working theory is going to be that idea of you're giving a speech, you need to do an audience analysis. To get a press release published, it needs to be written in a certain style or template. Scholarly theory, on the other hand, is going to take it to a bigger, broader level. So, for example, the first one that's on there is expectancy violations theory. And what it says is the effects of violations of expectations depend on the new reward value of the violator. So think about those TV shows where somebody is coming on the screen and they're going to be the singer, right? And they walk out and they look kind of dowdy and they're unattractive or whatever else you want to say about this person. And then they start singing and it's amazing. So they violated your expectations. This happens in the workplace sometimes for people who show up to their first job. Maybe they're overdressed or maybe they're underdressed, and you overdress and set a certain expectation of a high skill level, or you underdressed and people are like, oh, this person know what they're doing. And those are judgments. There's research on that people start to associate with you. So you can violate their expectations, but if you set yourself up in the workplace as somebody who's awesome and you violate it in a negative way, in other words, there's no reward, it's going to have a negative outcome for your career and your relationships with the other people. So that's the way that the theory starts to work on a broader scale. It's going to incorporate broader evidence base. It's going to be much more systematic. You've seen theory before. So this semester we've gone a little bit through apprehension. I know I didn't talk much about competence. And you've also seen it over there with the process of communication, where we talk about going through the encoding, decoding process. You've heard this in public speaking classes too. Here's a way, though, that I like to look at this just a little bit differently. Think about how you would study a tree. And normally in a semester I'd say, think of a tree before I showed this picture, but now I want you to look at this tree. Your perspective and how you approach studying it frames what you will learn and how you will view the tree. So in other words, you are thinking and analyzing a tree in one way if you are standing from this perspective. If I take you under the tree, all of a sudden you're starting to make more systematic hunches about the forest, but it ends up being a different thing. And if we go inside the tree, all of a sudden we're again in a different perspective and bringing in different information. This is actually from the field of semiotics, which is pretty fascinating. But the base of it is that depending on how you view something, you're going to come up with different perspectives. With theory, as you go through these different perspectives, you're going to start to come up with different ideas. So why use theory? Like, what is the value here? It's going to start to provide a scholarly background or a framework for your analysis. This is going beyond saying, hey, I think that this is the truth, this is the fact. But really, when you start to understand it, you're going to be able to make more sense of it. Here's a really good example. So in business, do you need to understand the theory of small talk to be able to do small talk in a break room? Well, no, most people will not need to know how to do small talk. But the theory might help you analyze what's happening when all of a sudden you find that small talk is or is not working. It can help you as a manager then improve what's happening or talk about what's happening in a way that makes your conversation part of a wider dialogue. Think of the example of a consultant. Let's say you go into a workplace and you're a consultant and you're going to provide a set of suggestions. If you just walk in and provide a set of suggestions and not much else, don't be surprised if the managers disregard these suggestions. They need more rationale than just a set of rules. They want to know why the sets of rules hold. They want to know how it works for their facility or their business. They're seeking advice, but they're going to be skeptical unless you back it up. That's why you're in business school. That's why many of you will continue on and get an MS or an MBA, so that you have more evidence and more information to back it up. Good theory is actually super practical because it's, this is a quote from another scholar I love. It says, quote, "It advances knowledge in a scientific discipline, guides research towards crucial questions, and enlightens the profession of management." So I kind of love that. But the idea is the more you know, the better you can get at it. It's going to help you gain that perspective and provide explanations, and again, position you in that wider discussion. It will enhance your credibility once you start to be able to talk about things in this way. For me personally at work, we're dealing with the uncertainty of fall semester and course delivery. So for myself, just knowing I can place that into the framework of uncertainty management, it helps me to understand what's happening. It also helps me to lead my team and be aware of some of what might be going through their heads as they start to think towards what's going to happen next. Here's another way I like to think about this. I know a lot of students, you at some point, whether it was the recorder in 4th grade or you were in band in high school, or maybe you had that parent who made you play piano like I did all the way through high school and elementary. There's going to be things that are gained by learning theory. Most people, once you get to that, especially high school level or college level, you're going to learn the theory of your instrument so that you can do more. And learning theory changes things. You can play it, but at a certain point you have to understand the circle of fifths for piano. You have to understand for, let's say, playing guitar, how it fits into the wider history of guitar. It starts to matter. And again, like I said to the last slide, it's the same thing with a consultant. Yeah, you can go in and give advice based on what you see and observe, but once you start to place it into the wider dialogue and back up what you're saying with more evidence, with how the idea of a chord works on the piano, you can go further with it. So for example, these are the theories we're going to be working with some this semester. So for your team project, I'm going to have you work with a theory and do a training session online, of course, with the team. The grade's going to be a little bit different this semester because we're also going to incorporate a meeting, which I'm really looking forward to rolling out that assignment. So we're going to think about practical communication skills, and then the understructure is this communication theory concepts. Right here is a list of theories that I'm going to give you to work with, but I wanted to pull this up on the screen now just to show you the wide variety of things that you can think about. And a lot of these will cross over, and I'm going to guess as you get into these, you'll start seeing how they connect to things happening in politics, or politics in particular for a couple of these, or crossing over into your other classes. A lot of these connect. So if you're in global business, or you're taking global, if you've all taken global business classes, many of you at this point, you can start to understand what understanding gender studies has to do with culture, or what race has to do with hiring practices, or what race might have to do with muted group theory. So there's really interesting connections between these where we start to understand what happens in the workplace. I mean, with those examples I just gave you, you can see how understanding how it works and why it works can even help you address illegal discriminatory practices in the workplace. One of the examples I think I put on e-learning was a great one last semester where they talked about disability studies. And in the workplace, what happens if you're not being aware of your communication, of how you accommodate other people, of how you should accommodate other people. So really critical, practical stuff. Sometimes theory starts to sound kind of out there, like what are we doing? But this is not that. For communication theory, this is how can you make your communication stronger? And in the examples I gave you, how can you be maybe even just a better person, or at least adhere to correct legal practices in the workplace? So good luck. I cannot wait to see what you do with these next couple of weeks with the assignments related to communication theory.